to the first episode of Breaking Down the Deck. Yeah, and I mean, what is Breaking Down the Deck? It is a segment that we will show our individual personal decks.
Yes.
And in each episode, we'll be breaking down one of them. So we will be showing all the 100 cards in the deck.
All 100 cards?
All 100 cards?
Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's really
crazy,
actually.
That is really crazy. But it will be a ton of fun because we will, explain what the deck does, why we have those cards, and we might even maybe, look at the deck and be like, maybe I need to put in more of this, or
yeah, exactly.
Why is this card here? Maybe I will replace this card, or you're like, I'm really proud that I have this card.
Yeah.
And maybe you will, get to know some new cards, or you will have some suggestions on
exactly
what
we could do, improve our decks, or what kind of new cards we can put in for the later set as well. So let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you play this deck and you can tell us how you have built your deck. Maybe you have built the deck completely different than we have. Yeah, so it'll be fun to know.
So what kind of deck you're gonna show us today?
Yeah, I will be showing you my Child of Alara deck.
What?
Yes, it's the baby.
It's the baby. It's the baby. Don't make the baby angry.
No, don't make the baby sad. Don't make the baby cry, because what this baby does. So
it's a nasty baby.
It's 5 colors.
Nasty baby.
It's a nasty 5-colored baby. It costs 5 mana, so 1 of each colors. It's a 6/6. It has trample.
You have trample?
It's trample.
What?
Yeah. And so when Child of Alara dies, destroy all non-land permanents. So not just creatures, but artifacts, enchantments, anything that isn't a non-land permanent. And they can't be regenerated.
So when you have a board wipe from your command zone, what is the win com in your deck?
In my win com, you can do it in a few different ways. But most people that I've encountered that play Child of Alara, they have the win com of collecting gates.
Oh, Maze of End.
Maze's End, because everything will be destroyed anyway. So a lot of people don't focus on building creatures or ramping them up, but collecting gates. So when you have 10 gates and you have Maze's End, then you automatically just win.
That sounds nasty.
But you can
sounds nasty.
Yeah, but you can also have lands that turn into creatures, but they are still lands, so they don't get destroyed. So you can also attack whenever there's a board wipe. No one has anything left, and you have lands that can turn into creatures, and you can attack
for the win.
No one has blockers.
Wow!
Yeah.
That is really useful way to use your lands, actually.
Yeah. But if you want to play Child of Alara with creatures, then you can pump up your commander really well with a lot of special creatures, which I don't really have, but you can do it like that.
Yeah, I was really surprised you have trample.
That's why, because you
what
can really, you can have creatures that really pump up Child of Alara, and it will trample its way through
for the win. Oh my god, that's nasty. Yeah. That's a nasty deck. People of the internet, that is a nasty deck.
Yeah, but people are like, oh, you're playing baby, and then, but also when you have Child of Alara, you're very popular because people want to talk to you and politics with you. They want to be like, okay, who here is the problem? Okay, Sarah, if I do this, can you block with Child of Alara and we can just remove
everything from that side? Yeah. That happened for me a lot of times.
Yeah, but I mean, there's of course a lot of strengths to this deck, but also some weaknesses to having Child of Alara as a commander, and it is, if you block with it and it's a board wipe, then someone might be like, oh wait, I will give my creatures indestructible.
Yeah.
And then everyone else, no creatures, nothing, and non-land permanents, and then that person is sitting there with everything, and it's really hard to rebuild to that stage where you can win, unless you have the gates thing. And
but still, an almighty board wipe from your command zone is pretty strong because it takes everything. It doesn't take creatures, it takes your artifacts, enchantments, your life, your happiness, your happiness.
Life.
It will take your happiness.
But yeah, of course. You're not indestructible, so it should also take. But I mean, you can also give your things indestructible.
Yes, it goes both ways there,
Yeah, so I mean, you could play this in a lot of different ways. I've also read that you could play this deck as a group hug, but I'm like, no. People, I think
Child of Alara as a group hug.
Yeah, you can. And I have one card that is a group hug card. You know, it is you can search your land. And my opponents can search for a land, and for each opponent that searches a land, I get a land.
Well, but wait, you say you'll win with Mace's end, right?
Yeah. But
you search for a basic land, right?
I don't remember. We will see when I break it down. But it just gives me more lands, or maybe more lands that are gifts. You know?
Oh my god!
Yeah. But also, we want you to take a look at our amazing wall decoration. That we got from Alphabar, Alphaspel in Sweden, in Stockholm. Yes.
Huge thank you to Alphabar and Alphaspel.
Yes, huge thank you. And we also have this gorgeous bag which contains gorgeous dices. They are really sparkling, and this bag is very nice.
It's super beautiful. I'm just gonna take a closer look there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful color. It's like look at this.
We will definitely be playing with these.
Yes.
In our gameplays, so you will get to see them in action.
Yes.
See what they can do.
Oh yes.
But yeah, I think let's move on to breaking down my Child of Alara deck.
Exactly.
So, see you there.
See you soon.
Okay, so we're breaking down my Child of Alara deck. And I already mentioned what it does. Basically a board wipe. So, since Child of Alara is a 5-color deck, that means you need to ramp a bit to get all the land and gates out. And my win con in this deck is to look for gates. So, of course, I need some cards to find the gates and lands, of course. So, here we have a sorcery. Tempt with Discovery. It's a 3 colorless and 1 green. Tempting offer, search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. Each opponent may search his or her library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who searches a library this way, search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then each player who searched a library this way shuffles it. So basically, this is a group hug card. I mean, everyone gets a gift, and I get several more gifts if anyone decides to search for land. So, in best case scenario, I get 3 opponents to search for a land. So it is a really good card, and a very kind and generous card. So I mean, no one can complain. Yeah. Okay. And then we have Circuitous Route. And it's also 3 colorless and 1 green. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and / or gate cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. So yeah, just basically looking for more lands and gate cards, which is super important. And then we have an amazing card. We have Explore. You may play an additional land this turn and then draw a card. And that is exactly what I need. It's 1 colorless and 1 green. Then we have Open the Way. So it's X colorless and 2 green. X can't be greater than the number of players in the game. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X land cards. Put those land cards onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So yeah, just, getting more land cards. And then we have Sylvan Scrying. So it's a 1 colorless and 1 green. Search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So, you know, green always means ramping, and ramping when your win con is gates. Amazing. Then we have Explore the Underdark. So it's 4 colorless and 1 green. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and or gate cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. And you take the initiative. So it's not just looking for gate and land cards, you also get the initiative if you play with that. And then since, you know, I play with gates, I have a lot of cards that let me get an advantage from having gates on the board. So here we have Gates Ablaze. So Gates Ablaze is 2 colorless, 1 red. Gates Ablaze deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of gates you control. So, I mean, if I control, let's say 9 gates, then I can deal 9 damage to each creature. I mean, that could basically be a board wipe of creatures. So, very good card to have if you have a lot of gates. Then we have Malicious Eclipse. 1 colorless and 2 black. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If a creature an opponent controls would die this turn, exile it instead. So I mean, that is really good if you meet someone that plays a lot of tokens that are like 1/1s. Then you can exile a lot of creatures that are 2 and below. So yeah, it's a really good card. It comes in handy a lot. Then we have Disrupt Decorum. I usually play this card a lot. It's 2 colorless, it's 2 red. Goad all creatures you don't control. So pretty simple. If you feel like you're in a tricky situation, maybe your opponents have like huge creatures and you feel that you might be the target, you just do a Disrupt Decorum, you goad them, you don't have to worry about them coming your way for a turn. Really good card. Then we of course have a Diabolic Tutor, 2 colorless, 2 black. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. So you can find any card you like. Perhaps a Maze's End when you have 10 gates. Could come in handy. Then we have Incriminate. So it's 1 colorless, 1 black. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by the same player. The player sacrifices one of them. Pretty simple. He has to choose between 2 creatures. Which one will die, which one will live. Yeah. So it's very good if your opponent has 2 creatures that are huge. Then at least, you know, one will die. Then when I Blight Massacre, it's 2 colorless and 2 swamps. Non-elf creatures gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So it's the same with this one. If you meet a lot of creatures that are like 1/1s or 2/2s, it's a good way to get rid of them. Then we have Ponder. It's 1 blue. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Then put them back in any order. You may shuffle and then you draw a card. Yeah. So you get to see, you know, what your top 3 looks like. Maybe if you're searching for gates, you know that a gate is coming. Or a gate might not be coming. But it's good and it's cheap. And then we have a Seagate Restoration. Pretty expensive. 4 colorless and 3 blue. But draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand plus 1. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So, I mean, it's a good card. So I understand why it is quite expensive. Sometimes you need to have a no maximum hand size because you just get a lot of cards in some situations. And, you know, it's hard to get rid of some cards, especially if you get a lot of gates or something, then you don't want to have to, you know, discard them. So this is a good card. And you can also flip this card. And it comes a land. So Seagate Reborn. As Seagate Reborn enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. And then you can add 1 blue mana. Yes. Okay. And then we have a couple of enchantments. First, we have Wilderness Reclamation. 3 colorless and 1 green. So at the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. I mean, that is so good. Because you never know when you're going to need to respond to something on an instant. Then it's good to have every mana to your disposition. Then we have a Retreat to Kazandu. 2 colorless, 1 green. So landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and you gain 2 life. Well, it depends on, you know, who you're playing against, but the last time I got this card, I chose the you gain 2 life. Because people were losing life quite quickly, so, you know, I had to make sure that I had enough life to be able to survive. Then we have a Ground Seal. It's 1 colorless and 1 green. When Ground Seal enters the battlefield, draw a card. Cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. So, I mean, of course, it's good to draw a card, but it's also sometimes it can be, you know, a weakness that a cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities. You know, it depends on who you're facing. If someone's using their graveyard a lot, then you can't do anything, you know, against that with spells or abilities. So it is a bit of a minus. But if I myself have a lot of graveyard things, then, you know, then it's a plus. So it's like 50-50 for me. It's not my favorite card, not the best card. I don't know if I will keep it in this deck, so I'll see. Maybe this one gets changed to something else. Then we have a Spontaneous Mutation. It's 1 blue. Flash, you may cast a spell anytime. You could cast an instant. So enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -X/-0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. So, I mean, if you have a lot of cards in your graveyard, then you can just flash this out. It's cheap, and it can maybe save you from a tricky situation. Then we have Eaten by Piranhas. So 1 colorless and 1 blue. So this also has flash. So enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities. And it's a black skeleton creature with base power and toughness 1/1. And it loses all other card types and creature types. So yeah, I mean, if someone is attacking you, a huge creature, or if you feel that there's a threat, you can just flash this out and save yourself. Then we have Bitter Chill. It's a 1 colorless and 1 blue. Enchant creature. When Bitter Chill enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. When Bitter Chill is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, scry 1, then draw a card. So this card I think is really good. It does a lot, and it's quite cheap. And if there's a huge threat, you can just tap that creature, and if this card goes in the graveyard, you still get some pluses. You can scry 1, and then you can draw a card. So really good enchantments. Then we have a Guild Summit. So when Guild Summit enters the battlefield, you may tap any number of untapped gates you control. Draw a card for each gate tapped this way. Whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So this is a good way to draw cards, especially when you have a lot of gates out. And it's 2 colorless and 1 blue. And then we have my last enchantment. It's a Maelstrom Nexus. It costs 1 of each color. The first spell you cast each turn has Cascade. So when you cast your first spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exile cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this was actually my first experience with Cascade, but I had a lot of fun, and it is a really good way to just play something without paying its mana cost. You might find something really expensive if you cast a first spell that maybe was super expensive. Then you can find something really worth your while, and you can then put the exile cards on the bottom of your library in a random order, which is also very good. Okay, let's move on to the instance, because you have to, react to things. And we start with a crop rotation. So, as an additional cost to cast the spell, you sacrifice a land. Search your library for land card. Put the card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Yeah, good way to find a gate. And then we have, of course, we have a beast within. You have to be able to deal with huge creatures or dangerous creatures. It's 2 colorless and 1 green, so you destroy target permanents. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. So I mean, at least the controller gets something out of it. It's, quite generous. And then we have a confounding riddle. So it's 2 colorless and 1 blue. So you choose one. You look at the top 4 cards of your library. You put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 4. Yeah, I mean, it's a good way, because usually not a lot of people choose or can pay the 4, because it's, quite a cost. But it's also good to see the top 4 cards in your library, and you get to put 1 of them in your hand. Then we have a BMVO. It's 1 colorless and 1 blue. It's creatures your opponent's control gets -2, -0 until end of turn. So it's also good against, smaller creatures and tokens, if they have 0. Then we have an Emerald Charm. I've used this card quite a lot, actually. It's 1 green. You choose 1. You untap target permanent, or destroy target non-aura enchantment, or target creature loses flying until end of turn. Yes, I mean, these are all good choices for just 1 green. Especially if the one target creature loses flying. Because, a lot of things have flying. If you don't have flying, then you can't block it. So with this, you can actually block a flying. So that's good. Then we have Joint Exploration. It's 1 colorless and 1 blue. You can also kick this. So the kicker costs 1 green. You may pay an additional forest as you cast the spell. Scry 2, then draw a card. If this spell was kicked, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So yeah, just some more ramp. Then we have Turn to Frog. 1 colorless and 1 blue. Until end of turn, target creature loses all abilities and becomes a blue frog with base power and toughness 1/1. So, very good against maybe an attacking huge creature. Then we have Divine Deflection. We have X colorless and 1 white. So this does prevent the next X damage that would be dealt to you and / or permanents you control this turn. If damage is prevented this way, Divine Deflection deals damage to target creature or player. So yeah, I mean, this can add up quite a lot and do some real harm and damage. And then we have Brainstorm. For 1 blue, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Yeah, so just some more card draw, seeing what's coming up. And then, you need some counters. You have 1 colorless and 1 blue, so you have negate. Counter target non-creature spell. Really useful in any situation. Then you have Bring the Ending. 1 colorless and 1 blue. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. Yeah, so this might be good if you see that that your opponents maybe doesn't have the mana required to counter this. Then it's really good. Then we have Unsummon. For 1 blue, return target creature to its owner's hand. Yes. If someone is attacking you, then you can just flash this out and save yourself. Then we have Village Rites. 1 black. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice creature, you draw 2 cards. Yeah, just some more card draw. And then we have 1 colorless and 2 blue. And it's cancel. So you counter target spell. Yes. And then my last instant is 2 colorless and 1 white. It's Dominaria's Judgment. So until end of turn, creatures you control gain protection from white if you control a plate, from blue if you control an island, from black if you control a swamp, from red if you control a mountain, and from green if you control a forest. And I mean, this is perfect for my deck since I have a 5-colored deck, so I gain protection from every color until end of turn. So really good. Okay, and then move on to my artifacts. I do have a few more artifacts than I'd like in this deck. I just realized this while playing it, so I might change a few. But yeah, first one is Arcane Signet, 2 colorless, and add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Then we have Commander Sphere, slightly more expensive with 3 colorless. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, and if you sacrifice Commander Sphere, you draw a card. So at least you draw a card. Then we have Hunter's Blowgun. It's 1 colorless. It's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Equipped creature has Death Touch as long as it's your turn. Otherwise, it has Reach. Equip cost 2. Yeah, so I mean, Death Touch as long as it's your turn. Otherwise, it has Reach. Reach is really good. But I do wish that it had Death Touch during every one's turn. But yeah, for 1 colorless, it can be quite effective. Then we have Dark Steel Ingot for 3 colorless. It is indestructible, which is perfect for my deck. And add 1 mana of any color. Because if you know Child of Alara dies, everything dies, except things that have indestructible. So this artifact is really good and comes in handy. Then we have Soul Ring, 1 colorless mana, and it adds 2 colorless. And I would suggest using this pretty early on, when you're still ramping, to be able to get things out quickly, because this will die at some point. So better to getting it out quickly and then letting it die probably. And then we have one of my favorite artifacts. It's Nevinyrral's Disc. It's 4 colorless, and it enters the battlefield tapped. And if you pay 1, then you can destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. So it's also basically a board wipe. So you have 2 board wipes here. So, double the danger. And then you can also politic your way out of things. And just use this one when things get dangerous. Then we have Navigation Orb, 3 colorless. If you pay 2 colorless, then you can sacrifice Navigation Orb, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and or / gate cards, reveal those cards, put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other one in your hand, then shuffle. So yeah, just getting more land and gates. And then we have one of my favorite artifacts in Magic history, Door to Nothingness. It's 5 colorless. It comes in tapped, but I do have a card which I can use to make the door come in untapped. For 10 mana, for 2 of each color, you sacrifice Door to Nothingness and target player loses the game, which is the fun part. Such a fun card, yeah. And then we have creatures. So the first one is an artifact creature, Gate Colossus. It costs 8 colorless, but this spell costs 1 less to cast for each gate you control. So you control 8, it's for free. So Gate Colossus can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, you may put Gate Colossus from your graveyard on top of your library. So I mean, it has a lot of advantages, blah, can't speak today, but yeah, you gain a lot, that's easier. You gain a lot, and you can also get it back from your graveyard whenever a gate enters, so it's perfect for me. Then we have Gatebreaker Ram, 2 colorless and 1 green. It's a sheep, it gets +1/+1 for each gate you control, and as long as you control 2 or more gates, Gatebreaker Ram has Vigilance and Trample. So more, gate plays. It has a lot of advantage. I still can't say that word. It's fine. Then we have Akem Hellkite. It's 4 colorless and 2 mountains. And it's a dragon. It has flying. Landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, Akem Hellkite deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Yes, I can choose target creature or I can choose a player. If that land is a mountain, Hellkite deals 2 damage to that creature or player instead. So yeah, this is, just a, slowly way to kind of ping people with damage here and there and just bring their life total down bit by bit. And then we have Eternal Witness. It's 1 colorless and 2 green. So it's Human Shaman. And when Eternal Witness enters the battlefield, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 2/1. So, perhaps bringing back a door, maybe, could be used to do that. Just saying. Then we have a Floriferous Vine Wall. So it's a 1 colorless and 2 green. So it's a plant wall. It's a defender. When Vine Wall enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 of your cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So yeah, just getting more land, getting more gates. Then we have a Sylvan Advocate. It's a 1 colorless and 1 green. It's an elf druid ally. It's vigilance. As long as you control 6 or more lands, Sylvan Advocate and land creatures to control get +2/+2. And then we have one of my favorite cards, Mina and Den, Wildborn. 2 colorless, 1 red and 1 green. And it's an elf. And you may play an additional land on each of your turns. And that is exactly what I need to be able to get out my gates as soon as possible. And for 1 red and 1 green, I can return a land you control to its owner's hand, and target creature gains trample until end turn. And also one of my favorite cards is Nine Fingers Keen. So it's a human rogue. It has menace. It has a ward, which is pay 9 life. I mean, that's quite insane, but it's good for me. And whenever Nine Fingers Keen deals combat damage to player, Look at the top 9 cards of your library. You may put a gate card from among them onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 9 or more gates, put the rest into your hand. Otherwise, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Yeah, there's a lot of things to gain from this card. I get to put out a gate card, and if I have 9 or more gates, I get to keep the rest of the cards in my hand. So I can, choose which ones to keep, which ones to discard. And I also get to put the rest on the bottom in my library in a random order. Love this card. And it's white, 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green, and 1 blue. And a 4/4. Tireless Provisioner. So it's 2 colorless and 1 green. It's an elf. Has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, create a food token or a treasure token. So I can, gain life, or I can add 1 mana of any color. So it's a really good card. It is a 3/2. And, since I play a lot of lands, a lot of gates, this can accumulate quite quickly. Then I have a Cursor of Crufix. It's 1 colorless and 2 green. It's an enchantment creature. It's a centaur. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library if it's a land card. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Yeah, so as it says, I play with the top card revealed. Everyone knows what it is. And if it happens to be a land card, I just put it onto the battlefield. And whenever land enters the battlefield, I gain a life. So this is a win-win. Then we have Tireless Tracker. And it is a 2 colorless, 1 green. It's a human scout. It also has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, I investigate. I create a clue token. And it's an artifact with 2. Sacrifice this artifact and draw a card. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. So, this can also accumulate to a lot, depending on how much lands I get in. And I have cards that, can bring me a lot of lands just on 1 turn. And I also get to draw a card if I sacrifice this artifact, a clue token. Yeah. So also a win-win. Then I have Tatiova, Benthic Druid. It's 3 colorless, it's 1 green, 1 blue. It's a legendary creature, Merfolk Druid, and it also has landfall. I love landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and you draw a card. Perfect. And it's a 3/3. Then we have a Gate Creeper Vine. So it's 1 colorless and 1 green. It's a plant, and it's a defender. When Gate Creeper Vine enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card or a gate card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Yeah, just some more ramp. Then we have one of my favorite cards in this deck. It's Archelos, Lagoon Mystic. 1 colorless, 1 swamp, 1 forest, and 1 blue. And it's a legendary creature. It's a turtle shaman. So, as long as Archelos Lagoon Mystic is tapped, other permanents enter the battlefield tapped. But, as long as Archelos is untapped, other permanents enter the battlefield untapped. So remember when I said I had a card that can make the door come in untapped? This is it. So that is why this one is super important in my deck. Because if I don't have all the gates, or that somehow fails, then I need to be able to use the door as soon as it comes in. And I can do that with this card. And then we have a District Guide. It's a 2 colorless, 1 green. It's an Elf Scout. And when District Guide enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card or a gate card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. It's a 2/2 and, some more ramp. And finally, my last creature. It's a Rampaging Balos. It's 4 colorless, 2 green. It's a beast. It has trample. It also has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. And it's a 6/6. Yes, it's a pretty big creature. And it makes me create more beast creature tokens with 4/4. So it's really good. Okay, and then we have come to the time where I reveal how many lands I have in my deck and which type of lands, and I will probably make some changes, and you will know why. So let's start with the basic lands. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 10 basic lands, and I do feel that there are a few too many basic lands. I don't really need so many. I can have like one of each, fine. And instead, what I'm gonna probably do is to lose some of them and put in some more gates, because I need to be able to get my gate win combo. And then we can go to my gates, and you will see why I need to put in more gates, because I have exactly 10. Yeah, and 10, and I need 10 to be able to win. So if I mill one goes into my graveyard, can't win unless I can get it back. But I don't have a lot of cards that bring stuff back, so I need to put in at least maybe 2, 3, 4. I'll see. But I have Celestia Guildgate. It enters battlefield tapped, and it adds a green or a white. I have the Basilisk Gate. It adds a colorless, and I can pay 2, and target creature gets plus X until end of turn, where X is the number of gates you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So, the more gates, the merrier. Golgari Guildgate comes in tapped. It produces a swamp or a forest. Izzet Guildgate. It enters battlefield tapped, and it produces a island or a mountain. Boros Guildgate comes in tapped, produces a mountain or a plains. Gateway Plaza. So Gateway Plaza, it enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, I can sacrifice it unless I pay the 1. And I can add 1 mana of any color. Here we have Azorius Guildgate. It enters battlefield tapped, and it adds 1 plains and 1 island. There are Gruul Guildgate, and it comes in tapped, and I can add a mountain or a forest. Then we have Rakdos Guildgate, and it enters the battlefield tapped, and I can add a swamp or a mountain. And then Manor Gate, and it enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, I can choose a color other than green, and then I can add forest or 1 mana of the chosen color. So those were my gates. And then we can move on to my special land. I call them creature lands. Here we have one. It's Restless Vents. It enters the battlefield tapped. It produces a swamp or a mountain. And for 1 colorless, 1 swamp, and 1 mountain, until end of turn, Restless Vents becomes a 2/3 black and red insect creature with menace. It's still a land. Whenever Restless Vents attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, you draw a card. So this is really good if I use Child of Alara. Everyone has their permanents, non-land permanents taken away, but I still have my lands which can, turn into creatures. And then I can attack people, and they don't have any blockers or defenders. So that is really good. Then I have Restless Fortress. It comes in tapped. It adds a white or a black. If I can pay 2 colorless, 1 white and 1 swamp, it becomes a 1/4 white and black nightmare creature until end of turn, but it's still a land. So whenever Restless Fortress attacks, defending player loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. And then we have Restless Winestalk, and it comes in tapped. It produces a forest or an island. And until end of turn, it becomes a 5/5 green and blue plant creature with trample. still a land. And whenever it attacks, up to one other target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. And then my final one is Treetop Village. This enters tapped and produces 1 forest, and for 1 colorless and forest, it becomes a 3/3 green ape creature with trample until end of turn, and it's still a land. And then we have a command tower. Add 1 mana of any color in commander's color identity. We have a Sunhome Fortress of the Legion. Adds a colorless. But for 2 colorless, 1 mountain, 1 plains, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. We have a Plaza of Harmony. And when it enters the battlefield, if you control 2 or more gates, you gain 3 life. And I add a colorless, or I add 1 mana of any type that a gate you control could produce. Yes. Then we have an Opulent Palace. It enters the battlefield tapped. It produces a swamp, forest, or an island. Then we have Bloodfell Caves. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, I gain 1 life, and it adds a swamp or a mountain. Then we have an Idyllic Beachfront. It comes in tapped, and it adds a plains or an island. We have a Tranquil Expanse. It enters tapped, and it adds a forest or a plains. And then we have a Contaminated Aquifer. It adds island or a swamp, and it comes in tapped. We have a Thornwood Falls. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, I gain 1 life. So it adds 1 forest and 1 blue. And then we have a Labyrinth of Skopos. It adds 1 colorless, and if I pay 4 colorless, I can remove target attacking or blocking creature from combat, which is really good. If I have a lot of mana open, then I can just remove it, or attacking or blocking creature, which is really good. Silverbrush Bridge. It comes in tapped, and it adds an island and a mountain. We have an Icum Refuge. It enters battlefield tapped, and when it does, I gain 1 life. And it adds 1 swamp or a mountain. Then we have a Radiant Fountain. And when it enters the battlefield, I gain 2 life. And then it adds 1 colorless to my mana pool. And I will end the card that wins me this whole game. It's Maze's End. So it enters the battlefield tapped. It adds 1 colorless mana to my mana pool. For 3 colorless, I can return Maze's End to its owner's hand, search your library for a gate card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. If you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game. Yeah, so I just have to make sure that I have all my gates up and then put this onto the battlefield. Because if I do it before I have the gates, people can steal it, people can destroy it. So better to use it when I have all my gates together. Yeah. So yeah, this is my Child of Alara deck. Let me know what you would have done differently, or if there were any cards you saw that you really liked, or if you yourself play Child of Alara. So yeah, back to the video. Wow.
Okay, that was some spicy deck there. There was some spicy. I did not expect that spiciness, actually.
Yeah, but I also saw a lot of things that I would probably change a bit, just a bit. So I'm thinking also that we will, maybe in a year or something, do an update on each deck. Like just a small, maybe shorter video, just, breaking down the deck update. So we can show you what we have changed and our thought process, and if it has worked better or worse. Yeah, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a good time and that you found something new, found new cards, or new anything that you want us to change, or a card that you maybe thought, oh wow, that is a really good card.
Yeah.
wow, you should definitely keep that. Never change
that. Never took it out.
Never. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much.
And we will see you in the next episode.
Exactly.
And remember to always pay the one.
Always pay the one.
Especially when Anders is playing. Always pay the one.
What? No, don't pay the one then. Never pay the one then. No, no.